Greetings and or salutations as they suit you. I'm Jacob with PsyborgAimes, and today we're going to talk about burnout, rest, and recovery through the quietly radical little farming game Stardew Valley. Burnout comes up a lot in my work. People push themselves toward an idea of normal life that doesn't actually fit their capacity, their values, or the reality they're living in. We tend to imagine burnout as a single dramatic overreach. That one time you went too hard. But more often, it's quieter than that. You don't crash, you thin out. So today, I want to visit the cozy town of Stardew Valley and look at how this pixel art farm does something most real world systems don't. It treats effort and recovery as a cycle, not a moral test. For those unfamiliar, Stardew Valley is a farming simulation. Your grandfather leaves you his old farm and you move to a quiet valley town where you grow crops, raise animals, explore caves, and slowly build relationships with the people around you. You can't really die in the game. Even the dungeon just sends you back to town. And when you overdo it, you don't fail. You simply wake up the next day with less energy. Crucially, the game never locks you out. Recovery is always available. One of the things I really appreciate about Stardew Valley is that it teaches consequences without punishment. If you stay up too late, push too hard, or work yourself into exhaustion, something gives. It isn't forever. It isn't catastrophic. It's just enough that tomorrow is harder. There's no moral judgment baked into it. No failure screen, no lecture, no you should have planned better. The game just reflects reality back to you. You spent more than you had. And that's very different to how burnout tends to be treated in real life. In real life, exhaustion often gets framed as a personal flaw. Lazy, weak, undisciplined, not resilient enough. Over time, people internalize that framing until rest itself starts to feel like a failure. But burnout usually doesn't arrive with a dramatic collapse. It shows up as diminishing returns. You're still doing the things, they just cost more. Thinking costs more. Getting started costs more. Decisions that used to be automatic start to feel a bit sticky. The dramatic moment tends to come later, when your body refuses to get up. When you realize halfway home that you walked out of a lecture mid-sentence. When the system finally pulls the handbrake because the warning lights were ignored. Let's zoom in on how Stardew handles this. If you simply run out of energy, not health, you pass out. The day ends, you wake up in your bed, and you've lost some money. You're not punished, you just step back a little, with less energy to work the next day. If you push too hard at the mines and your health hits zero, it gets a bit messier. But it's still not a game over. Collapse, you lose some gold, you might lose a few items, but what you really lose is time. You lose the time it takes to get down there, lose the momentum of that run. You lose the progress you're making that day. And now, if you want to go back to where you were, you have to invest more time and energy to do it again. And that's part I think maps beautifully onto burnout. Burnout doesn't usually take things away permanently. It takes time. It takes capacity. It takes ease. And suddenly, everything you're doing before requires more effort just to reach the same point. And this is the reframe I really love. Burnout isn't a moral failure. You didn't mess up as a person. Your system just hit its limit and shut things down. In therapy terms, we'd say your nervous system has flipped out of regulation. You stopped fully resetting between efforts. You keep going like this. Survival mode is absolutely an option. But survival mode isn't a replacement for normal functioning. And the longer you rely on it, the more time and energy it takes to find your way back. Now let's make this personal for a moment. I've overworked myself for long stretches, more time than I'd like to admit. Over the Christmas break, I realized I didn't know what to do with myself when there was no admin work to procrastinate from. That got my attention. Starting this series was partly about noticing the patterns and choosing to step out of them. Imperfectly, but deliberately. There's a good chance you grew up in a culture that celebrates output, rewards overextension, and then acts baffled when people burn out. For most people, sustainable functioning sits closer to 80% capacity. Yes, my neurodivergent peeps, your best is 80%. That remaining margin isn't inefficiency, it's where recovery lives. It's a buffer, flexibility, the space that lets you respond to life rather than just endure it. Just thinking about some other things, if you drive, you don't run your car on fumes as a lifestyle choice. You don't treat your phone at 1% as working as intended. So why do we expect our nervous system to do exactly that? Ideally, we would pace ourselves in a way that leaves something for tomorrow, finishing when we are done, not when the workload runs out. And this is the part that often surprises people. Recovery from burnout is rarely fast. I've seen people spend weeks mostly in bed, then months gently moving back towards engagement. And for some, full recovery unfolds over years. Not always, but enough that it deserves respect. Trying to rush that process usually just spins the wheels again. This is where people often get anxious. They rest for a few days, they don't feel better, and decide that rest must not be working. But if you're waking up already tired, leaning on caffeine just to feel baseline, snapping at small things, or feeling overloaded by simple choices, that's not a motivation problem. That's a system that hasn't had the chance to recalibrate. Rest isn't a button you press, it's a sequence. Your systems don't recover on the timeline we wish they would. So next time you boot up Stardew Valley, or get home after a demanding day, it might be worth gently checking in with where your energy actually sits. Does your life make room for recovery? And if the answer is not really, that doesn't mean you're broken. But it may mean you're constantly paying tomorrow's energy to survive today. Rest isn't laziness. It's how living systems restore themselves. Stardew Valley understands that. Your nervous system does too. If conversations like this feel helpful, you're welcome to subscribe or say hi in the comment. And if there's a game you'd like me to explore next, let me know. Thanks for being here. Rest gently and be kind to your mind.